Welcome back! Sports fans, hit subscribe because a guest at JuJu Smith-Schuster's wedding just revealed how Kelce and Swift really acted behind the scenes. While the roster celebrated, the newlyweds playbook reportedly left a few folks raising eyebrows. Let's break down the game tape, starting with the timeline. On July 3rd, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce tied the knot in a heavy-hitter ceremony at Madison Square Garden in New York City. Following months of massive hype, 1,000 guests in black tie gear, they turned that entire arena into an absolute fairy tale. That piece of the broadcast you and I already know. But fans missed what went down exactly 1 week later. There was no honeymoon or off-season vacation. Instead, Taylor and our favorite tight end hit another wedding just a week after their own ring ceremony, showing up for NFL veteran JuJu Smith-Schuster and Laura Crook. Now, this wasn't just a quiet sideline appearance either. This was the newlyweds crashing the big day of Kansas City. Chiefs wide receiver JuJu Smith-Schuster and Laura, making one of their first major public drives since tying the knot. Why JuJu? Because he and Travis shared the gridiron for seasons in Kansas City, helping the Chiefs capture Super Bowl 57, staying tight long after their run as teammates. And this wasn't a one-sided rivalry. Smith-Schuster and his new wife were playing the exact same position just 7 days prior. The former Chief and Laura were among the 1,000 fans who attended Kelce and Swift's blockbuster wedding, which meant Swift and Kelce had to blitz across the map just days after their own massive event. Consider that brutal travel schedule for a minute. You secure the ring on a Manhattan Friday night before 1,000 folks. Then, per The Wire, the newlyweds were spotted in Montana running drills, with Jason Kelce and his wife Kylie kicking back at the hyper-exclusive Yellowstone Club up in Big Sky. Then, come Thursday, July 9th, the power couple reportedly touched down in California for JuJu's event, New York to Montana to California in the span of 7 days, all while coasting on the adrenaline of their own victory. Once they hit the Ritz-Carlton in Laguna Niguel, they didn't dodge the press. Guests reported Taylor rocking a strapless pink floral ball gown, while Travis suited up in a classic black tuxedo. They were spotted holding hands as they marched inside the stadium. Other reporters called the play slightly differently, saying Swift wore a pink brocade gown while Kelce wore a sharp gray suit. Swift also flashed that signature red lip. Yet, every spectator in the stands agrees on one absolute fact. They rolled in together, hands locked tight, completely owning the spotlight. That dress became its own headline. Fashion analysts scouted it as a top-tier designer pick. Swift made the whole room shimmer in a pink and red strapless floral brocade Marcarian gown, running $4,115, paired with sunglasses and her classic red lip. That same red lip guests keep hyping up, like a clear, audible call that she was completely dialed into party mode. Just 1 week into marriage, and already dominating another dance floor. But what went down once they got inside is the real post-game chatter. Because according to the folks in the trenches, this wasn't a couple just riding the bench in the back. During the reception, Swift grabbed a flute of champagne and started greeting the roster with solid handshakes. She wasn't hiding in some VIP suite. She was working that room like she'd been teammates with half the guest list forever. Which, knowing how NFL social circles overlap with Kelce's franchise, she basically was. And Kelce himself shifted into a totally different gear than football fans usually see him wearing. Out of the shoulder pads, away from the microphone, and fully drafted into wedding mode. Her superstar husband was grinning wide, trading his game day jersey for a tailored suit and large frame shades. The energy guests reported wasn't some forced obligatory PR stunt. It was two folks who had just tied the knot themselves, still riding a championship high, showing up to a teammate's wedding and treating it like an overtime extension of the epic party they just threw. That's the highlight guests keep putting on replay when they recap the event. Forget the dress or the tux. It was their energy. A massive pop icon and an elite NFL tight end, fresh off their own rookie week of marriage. Flying cross-country and playing less like honored guests. More like the ultimate hype squad. Drop a like if you love this energy, because according to the folks on that dance floor, being the life of the party barely covers their stats. Once the ceremony clock hit 0 and the reception kicked off, that's when things really got wild. That's where this playbook gets fascinating. Before you and I review what actually went down on that dance floor, let's scout the rest of the roster in that room. because JuJu Smith-Schuster's wedding was anything but a quiet, drop a like and subscribe, folks. This was basically a massive reunion of the exact same football crowd that just watched Swift and Kelce tie the knot just 7 days prior. The sports desk at TMZ got the early scoop on this massive guest roster, reporting that the invite sheet was absolutely loaded with NFL heavyweights, featuring Patrick and Brittany Mahomes, Isaiah Pacheco, Kendrick Bourne, George Karlaftis, Tyquan Thornton, and Jacob Towe-Omarienner. That is no random group of plus ones, folks. That is the entire Kansas City Chiefs locker room transplanted straight onto an Orange County beach resort. And that massive overlap with Kelce and Swift's own blockbuster wedding was no coincidence. It was the same inner circle, just swapping out who stood at the altar. Multiple sports sources confirmed that just 1 week after exchanging vows at their star-studded MSG ceremony in New York City on July 3rd, the powerhouse couple hit another massive event to celebrate NFL receiver JuJu Smith-Schuster marrying Laura Crooks. Let us rewind the tape to their own wedding for a second, because it explains why this NFL crowd felt like total family, rather than a standard road trip. At MSG, Swift and Kelce invited huge names like Emma Stone, Zoe Kravitz, and Ed Sheeran. And they even got live musical performances from legends Stevie Nicks and Paul McCartney. But broadcast veteran Robin Roberts made a point of saying the night did not feel like some untouchable, elite celebrity gala. She noted how the powerhouse duo included normal neighbors and old high school friends, making it feel like any hometown wedding. As an editor, I say that detail matters because it shows the exact mindset these two brought into JuJu's wedding just a week later. This was absolutely no mandatory obligation. They treated it exactly how Donna Kelce described her Pro Bowl son's own wedding. I really cannot say a heck of a lot, except that it was absolutely magical. Man, magical. That is the exact high energy that followed them right into sunny Laguna Niguel. At their own event, the starting lineup read like a greatest hits roster of pop culture and elite sports. Massive crowds of A-list names were spotted stepping out in New York City for the party, featuring Gigi Hadid, Bradley Cooper, Dakota Johnson, Mariska Hargitay, and Peter Herman, Ed Sheeran and Cherry Seaborn, the Haim sisters, Ellie Goulding, Benson Boone, Maren Morris, Kelsey Ballerini, Miranda Lambert, The Chicks, country star Brad Paisley, and Kimberly Williams Paisley, Hugh Grant, Carly Kloss and Joshua Kushner, Zoe Kravitz, Jason Sudeikis, Ethan Hawke, Jimmy Fallon, and Tommy Hilfiger. Jessica Alba made the cut too, a star who shared the screen with Swift in the music video over 10 years ago. Entertainment reports noted she clearly still has mad love for Swift, hitting up the ceremony with her boyfriend. Even the New England Patriots Alumni Network crashed the MSG affair. Julian Edelman posted a recap of the night, calling it one hell of a love story, while attending the bash with his fellow Patriots legend and Gronk's longtime girlfriend, adding, "Congrats to Taylor and Travis. Unbelievable day, celebrating two incredible people." So, by the time the next weekend hit and JuJu's big wedding kicked off out in sunny California, we basically saw a rolling roster of overlapping friend groups, star football players, their partners, and several massive entertainers following Swift and Kelce from one altar to the next. It is the same social gravity, just an entirely different zip code. And that heavy overlap explains why guests at JuJu's event felt perfectly comfortable to talking about what Swift and Kelce were doing once the music fired up. These were not random fans watching a celebrity cup from the bleachers. These were NFL teammates, franchise coaches, and tight friends who just spent an entire week watching that same superstar couple celebrate their own huge marriage. And now they were watching them do it all over again, just from the other side of the official guest list. Because once you get past the designer outfits, the VIP handshakes, and the champagne flutes, what people truly remember from that California night in Laguna Niguel is what went down once the live band started playing. And, according to multiple sports insiders in that room, neither Swift nor Kelce left any room for anyone to forget it. Now, listen up. You and I are about to get into the real story, because it is one thing for Swift and Kelce to attend 1 week after their very own, but it is a whole different ballgame to hear from the people standing right next to them on the packed dance floor. The absolute best scouting report comes from Ryan Fitzpatrick, the legendary former NFL quarterback turned Thursday Night Football desk analyst who attended the massive wedding with his wife Liza. When pressed about the wild night, Fitzpatrick did not talk about Swift and Kelce's designer outfits or their grand entrance. He took us straight to the dance floor, telling the sports media point blank that there was heavy dancing for hours on end, and that he and his wife were still totally recovering from grinding it out on that dance floor for 6+ hours. 6+ hours, man. That is not a quick hit subscribe, folks. We are breaking down an entire night surrendered to the dance floor. And by every account, Swift and Kelce were right in the thick of it. Fitzpatrick's main takeaway from the night had nothing to do with celebrity spotting at all. His favorite memory was purely personal. He said, "My favorite moment was just I got to spend the night with my wife just on the dance floor, being around and being in it." So that was pretty magical for us. That detail tells you everything about the absolute electric atmosphere Swift and Kelce dropped into. This wasn't some boring event where celebrities sat at a roped-off table sipping champagne from a distance. It was a night where the whole dance floor, Fitzpatrick's included, lost hours to the music, and multiple reports described Swift and Kelce fully immersed in that exact kind of night. Then we get the officiant reveal, which absolutely floored the room. Fitzpatrick broke down the moment the ceremony kicked off, saying, "When Adam Sandler walked out, it had everybody floored. That was really cool." He then simply added that the ceremony was beautiful. Yeah, you heard right. Adam Sandler, the comedian who officiated Swift and Kelce's wedding 7 days prior, showed up to officiate JuJu Smith-Schuster's ceremony too. Whether that is the tightest inner circle in modern celebrity culture or the craziest wedding circuit any comedian has run in a single week, it is hard to say. But it explains why this NFL crowd felt like one giant, continuous celebration instead of two separate events. It also explains why Sandler's advice, that same keep kissing line coach Andy Reid shared just days prior, kept echoing through the group, moving from one reception to the next. Now, beyond the dancing and the officiant surprise, guests zeroed in on how Swift and Kelce interacted with everybody else at the venue, not just each other. One guest from their Madison Square Garden wedding told the press they were both beaming the entire night. That completely backs up what insiders reported about their own reception the week before. And that veteran instinct to work a room instead of hiding reportedly followed them straight into JuJu's wedding, too. Sources on the ground described how, despite the massive crowd, the newlyweds took time to chat with everyone. "She kept thanking everyone for being there," a source told the magazines. You put these pieces together, and you and I get a much clearer picture of what this crazy behavior actually looked like. It was not chaos. It was no scandal. It was just two superstars who had recently gotten married, dropping into a teammate's wedding, refusing to sit still, dancing for hours, working the room, and greeting virtually every guest, all while riding the massive emotional high of their own vows from a week earlier. Fitzpatrick's honest admission that he and his wife were still recovering from that crazy dance floor days later says way more about the insane atmosphere Swift and Kelce created or fully embraced than any red carpet photo ever could. Now, that raises a major question for us. If this is how they acted at a buddy's wedding exactly 1 week after their own, what does that tell us about their private reception? Well, turns out guests have plenty to say about it. And it traces a direct line back to the exact kind of epic party that spills over into the following weekend. To really understand why Swift and Kelce hit JuJu's wedding still buzzing, let's look at the tape and go back 7 days to the night that started it all inside Madison Square Garden. The ceremony ran long by design. The two exchanged custom vows they personally wrote, reportedly clocking in at 20 minutes each. That is 40 solid minutes of vows alone before the reception even kicked off. That sets a heavy emotional tone for an entire night rather than just checking a box. And the officiant reveal sparked a massive reaction. Chiefs head coach Andy Reid, never shy about sharing details post-game, told reporters that Sandler did a phenomenal job officiating. He then passed along the advice Sandler gave the couple directly. Kiss every chance you get every single day, whether you are going to bed or heading into work. Whenever, go ahead and kiss her. That advice did not just sit as a nice soundbite for the cameras. Reid brought it up again days later at a public event in Salt Lake City, reinforcing it almost like a running locker room joke among the friend group. He told them, "Keep kissing," Reid said. So, in its simplest form, that's a good thing. It's hard to argue when you give your wife a kiss or your wife gives you a kiss. Meanwhile, the reception sounds like it set the ultimate playbook for what would happen at JuJu's wedding the very next week. Guests recall raffle prizes and cool games built into the night, including designer bags and a 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle, the car Kelce drove Swift off in. Hit that like button. Picture the sunset right after her first Kansas City Chiefs game back in September 2023. It's huge. These two were building their own private history right into their wedding reception playbook, making it a legendary all-night victory party rather than just a standard ceremony. Hit that like button, folks. On the wedding party roster, while everyone guessed which pop stars from Swift's squad would make the starting lineup at the altar, both the Grammy winner and her new NFL husband actually benched the traditional wedding party completely. Instead, Swift called up her brother Austin to act as her man of honor, while Kelce drafted his brother Jason Kelce for the best man spot. And the Flower Girl lineup brought the entire extended family onto the field. My fellow broadcaster Rich Eisen confirmed the Flower Girls were Kelce's, brother Jason's 4 daughters, Wyatt, Elliot, Bennett, and Finley Kelce. Sprinkling petals all over the turf, the entire city got drafted into this massive off-season spectacle. New York City's mayor, Zoran Mamdani, revealed Taylor footed the bill for the Madison Square Garden permit. That included heavy police protection, which hit over $160,000. You and I know that's a massive scale. A wedding demanding city permits and its own police defense. Yet guests said the couple still made the rounds personally, greeting everyone and shaking hands individually instead of hiding behind a security wall. So when JuJu Smith-Schuster's wedding hit a week later, Swift and Kelce were not stepping onto unfamiliar turf. They were just running the same play they had drawn up for themselves. Hit the dance floor until exhaustion. Shake every hand in the room. Fully embrace the sentimental moments and let Adam Sandler officiate the ceremony. The wild highlights everyone reported from JuJu's reception was no fluke. It was Swift and the star tight end being exactly who they showed, sus they were just 1 week prior. Only this time, they were away game guests instead of the main event. That consistency is exactly why this sports headline hits so hard. It isn't about 2 A-listers showing up and acting totally different than expected. It's that the exact same motor, the dancing, handshakes, champagne, and gratitude traveled with them from their own stadium right into someone else's without losing a single step. By the time the final whistle blew and the Ritz-Carlton cleared, Swift and Kelce executed a play most newlyweds would never try. They turned their own honeymoon window into an overtime extension of the celebration. A move that drafted an entire circle of teammates, coaches, and friends who just watched them tie the knot. For JuJu Smith-Schuster and Laura Crook, the timing was a massive gift, not a penalty. Having a pop superstar and an NFL veteran walk into your reception, dance for hours, and personally thank you is an elite highlight reel most couples never get to experience. Love these updates? Make sure to subscribe right now. It makes total sense why that invitation felt inevitable initially. The invite was a lock, folks. JuJu and Travis shared the gridiron for several seasons in Kansas City and brought home a Super Bowl 57 ring for the Chiefs, staying close off the field ever since. That bond doesn't take a timeout just because one of the guys spent last weekend getting a ring of his own. For Swift and Kelce, the post-game coverage doesn't stop at the reception. Reports continue to track the power couple through their entire post-wedding stretch. From the secluded Montana trip to more fan sightings as they settle into married life, under the spotlight of cameras capturing their every single play. And with Kelce's wild new chapter joining the New York Giants rather than the Chiefs, plus Swift's tour schedule packing out, this wedding might end up being marked as their final truly relaxed off-season stretch before the heavy machinery of both mega careers picks right back up. But let's look at the tape together. It isn't the crazy schedules or the 6+ hours on the dance floor. It's that none of this felt like a PR stunt. Fitzpatrick didn't leave the party talking about rubbing elbows with fame. He left talking about his own wife and the massive win of spending the night dancing right alongside her. Coach Andy Reid didn't quote Sandler's advice just for a solid soundbite. He repeated it because he completely bought into it. And the locker room source who saw Swift going out of her way to thank every guest wasn't pitching a media spin. They described someone who, 1 week into the marriage game, still felt like she was the team captain hosting the event, not just attending. That's what this supposed wild behavior really boiled down to, according to every source in that room. No scandal, zero chaos, nothing the guests needed to hide from the press. Just 2 newlyweds refusing to let the championship celebration end, carrying that trophy energy from their altar to another reception. leaving an entire dance floor of NFL. You and I know NFL players need days to recover. But honestly, it is the wild stamina most newlyweds only dream about. Still had on tap. Drop a like right now. Yahoo reports Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce hit another wedding right after their own Madison Square Garden nuptials. E! News confirms Taylor and Travis made their very first public outing since officially tying the knot. TMZ caught the superstar couple celebrating at JuJu Smith-Schuster's wedding. The Mirror noted the Chiefs tight end and pop icon attended JuJu's party barely a week after theirs. This marks their absolute first public appearance as a married couple at JuJu's reception. Now, why did Taylor and Travis attend his former teammate's wedding so soon after their own star-studded event? Well, Yahoo and AOL reported the newlyweds simply wanted to support their NFL family just 7 days after those massive vows. You and I have to admit, the glamorous newlyweds completely stole the show supporting JuJu this past weekend. Over 10 million fans love these newlyweds. Hit subscribe for more.